My stepmother, in order to find a good job for her daughter, deliberately got my wife drunk and sent her to the bed of a rich second-generation heir. My wife, in order to protect her chastity, struggled with the rich second-generation heir and hit her head on the corner of a table, resulting in severe brain damage and becoming mentally incapacitated. In order to treat my wife, I've lived a life worse than a beggar. While my stepmother tried every trick in the book to get me to divorce my wife and didn't give me a single penny, I heard that if I used the ashes of my enemy as a medicine ingredient, my wife could wake up from her condition. So I went back. Carl, mom is in the hospital. Hurry up and send money over. Look, didn't you always say before that you wouldn't rely on me for support? If you need money for medical expenses, go ask Magdalene. If she doesn't give it to you, then just wait to die. I have to take care of Carlin and don't have time to deal with you. Don't contact me again. You. Before Cheryl could finish, I hung up the phone. If she dies of her illness, I might even laugh. Don't blame me for being cruel. Cheryl is my stepmother. To deceive me out of money, she would think of the most disgusting methods, and pretending to be sick is the simplest trick. While I was eating steamed buns and pickled vegetables outside, Cheryl and her daughter Magdalene were indulging in good food and drink at home, spending my hard-earned money. To deceive me out of money, she would do anything despicable. After hanging up Cheryl's call, I pushed open the door to my home. It was a dilapidated rental house, and the foolish woman was cuddling in my arms. Honey, you're back. I'm hungry. She is my wife Carlin, the only family I have left in this world. For the foolish Carlin, I enjoy her talking to me like this, like a little girl, cute and adorable. How was it being at home alone today? Did you behave yourself? Yeah, I was really good. There was even a woman who came today and asked me to call her mother-in-law. A woman. My heart tightened. Cheryl wouldn't come here. If she dares to cause trouble, I won't care about any family ties and will give her a good lesson. What did she say to you? Carlin came out from my arms. She said that if you agree to see her, she'll spend money on my treatment. I relaxed. It wasn't Cheryl who came. It was Dinah. Dinah is my biological mother. After my parents, Dinah and Kenneth, divorced 18 years ago, I only saw her from a distance when I was in school. I gently patted Carlin's head. I understand. You just wait obediently. I'll go get you something delicious to eat. Early in the morning, as I was about to leave for work, I opened the door and saw Dinah waiting for me outside. Her attire and appearance were much better than they were 18 years ago. She must have made a lot of money over the years. If you call me Mom, I'll treat your wife. This is a good deal for you. I didn't have much fondness for Dinah and certainly didn't want her to see my tears, so I deliberately looked elsewhere. You really treat Carlin. What's wrong with calling you Mom? Dinah tried to enter my home, but I stopped her. I know you hate me, but I couldn't help it back then. Cheryl stepped in and destroyed our family. Can't you forgive me? Carlin cuddled into my arms, looking at me with expectant eyes. I knew she also hoped to regain her intellect and live like a normal person. The overwhelming sense of guilt made me compromise with Dinah. The title of Mom should be earned by you showing your love first, and then I can call you that. Once you give me your love, I'll naturally call you Mom. For a long time, none of us said anything, and Dinah seemed to be in deep thought. All right. Then Nakarni took the phone away, smiling as he said, You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. I'll take you to find a master. I used to be called Kearney. 8 years ago, like other children, I had a complete family, with parents who loved me. My dad's name was Kenneth, and my mom was Dinah. The nightmare began when I was 7, after Kenneth met Cheryl. At that time, Kenneth was the boss of a construction team with over 200 workers. Although it wasn't extremely wealthy, it was still much better than an average family. After Cheryl became Kenneth's secretary, they often came to our house together. Then Kenneth and Dinah would argue fiercely every 3 days and mildly every 5 days, ruining our furniture beyond recognition. During the time, I dared not interfere, just locking myself in my small room, covering my ears and crying. Half a year later, When I came home from school, I never saw Dinah again. I heard that she had divorced Kenneth. After that, Cheryl moved into our house, and Kenneth even had me call Cheryl Mom. From then on, my life was like a misaligned train track, diverging further and further from the right path, never returning to normal. After Cheryl married Kenneth, the name Kearney doesn't sound good. Our family is in construction, so let's name our son Carl. It will help our business. However, I felt that the name Carl was great either because it sounds like G and cheap in Chinese, and I always felt like Cheryl was insulting me. After Cheryl had my sister Magdalene, I became the extra person in the family. While other kids finished their homework and could play outside, I had to take care of Magdale's needs every evening after school. I stayed up late to finish my homework after everyone else was asleep. Cheryl also tried to brainwash Kenneth, leading us step by step into a trap. She told Kenneth that outsiders would call their son a construction bank, and when he grew up, they'd have to buy him a house, car, and a bride, with a dowry. Meanwhile, their daughter would be like an investment bank, not needing to buy a house or a car, and she would receive a large dowry when she got married. The idea was to raise boys in hardship and girls in luxury, so boys would grow up responsible. Coincidentally, our neighbor Uncle Chance had a son and a daughter, both married. When Brother Channing got married, nearly took all their saving, and he borrowed a lot of money from us. Fortunately, on Sister Zhang's wedding day, they received a large dowry, which helped Uncle Chance's family pay off their debts and manage to live normally. After they had children, Brother Channing rarely brought his wife and kids home to see their parent, while Sister Zhang often returned, bringing food and treats that delighted Uncle Chance and his wife. Cheryl and Kenneth's plan was to move to Magdale's house for retirement, so if I ever faced difficulty, they could still help me. But there was one thing about Uncle Chance's family that Cheryl never mentioned. A few years later, Uncle Chance became seriously ill, and his treatment costs amounted to hundreds of thousands. After Sister Jan contributed 100,000, she couldn't spare any more money. In contrast, Brother Channing borrowed money from everywhere to save Uncle Chance, even selling his house. Under such circumstances, Kenneth was brainwashed to be biased toward Magdalene and believed that I would eventually drain their resources. Later, I noticed that their attitudes toward Magdalene and me were completely different. Magdalene would receive praise for even the slightest progress, and they would be thrilled if she finished her bowl of rice. As for me, no matter how well I did on tests, they never showed me a good face. And if I wanted to eat a little more, Cheryl would scold and hit me. After graduating from junior high, Cheryl claimed that the family business was doing poorly and they couldn't afford high school tuition. So she wouldn't let me continue my education and insisted I go out to work to earn money. She said she would save my earnings for me to use when I got married. During those years of working, I rarely returned home. Each payday, Cheryl would come to my workplace and take away most of my money, telling others, "I'm afraid he'll waste it. You'll save it for him." That I was coming home less and less, living on steamed buns and pickled vegetables, completely unaware that they were living comfortably off my hard-earned money. One day, when I had a day off, I wanted to go home and take a look. I happened to see the three of them coming out of a restaurant near home, all drunk and wearing new clothes. Kenneth asked Cheryl, "You spent over 2,000 today, and it's not from the family money. Where did you get it?" Cheryl proudly replied, "This is my secret stash. I'm treating you. Aren't you happy?" I couldn't help but frown. They spent over 2,000 in one day, all I've been on steamed buns and pickled vegetables, doing the hardest and most exhausting work. I immediately connected this 2,000 with something else. A couple of days earlier, when I got paid, Cheryl had taken 3,000 from me, and they hadn't paid me back for dinner that night. Could it be that Cheryl was using that 3,000? I rushed over and called out, "Magdalene, I just wanted to go home. And you didn't call me for dinner." Their faces immediately looked unnatural. I then asked Kenneth, "How much has Mom saved from my wages every month?" Kenneth's expression changed, and Magdalene took a small step back. Cheryl quickly turned hostile. "Who took your wages? Stop talking nonsense here. Go back to your dorm and sleep. We've had too much to drink." Don't create trouble for no reason. Even if Kenneth and I were Navi, we understood what was really going on. 2 days later, Kenneth came to my workplace, his voice heavy. Your mom said that the money you give her, she's saving for you. You don't need to give her any more. Keep it for yourself. Is that so? How's your health doing? Kenneth's face darkened even more, and he awkwardly replied, just focus on your work. I have something to take care of. A few months ago, Cheryl told me that Kenneth was seriously ill and under observation at the hospital, and that family members weren't allowed to enter. She claimed that the medical expenses were enormous and that the family didn't have enough money, and she had borrowed a lot from friends. However, it turned out that Kenneth's illness was a lie, and Cheryl had already spent all the money she took from me. Since that incident, I hadn't gone home for a long time, and Cheryl didn't come to my workplace asking for money anymore. I didn't dwell on how Cheryl had deceived me. I considered it my duty to support them. What truly affected me was meeting Carlin. She was beautiful but had a hard life. After her parents passed away, she was left alone to live, often bullied by others, despite owning a property. When she got married, she didn't want any dowry, just someone who would treat her well and protect her. I brought Carlin home to discuss marriage with my family. Cheryl unusually prepared a huge feast and kept encouraging us to drink. At that moment, I was careless, thinking that no matter how unscrupulous Cheryl was, she should be happy about my upcoming marriage. Unfortunately, I misjudged Cheryl. She was worse than an animal. When I woke up and didn't see Carlin, I called her to ask where she had gone. I heard her voice on the other end. Carl, help me. Hotel. Carlin was in danger, and I felt like I had been struck by lightning. Initially, Carlin had shared our phone locations for safety, so I quickly tracked her down at the hotel. I kicked the door open and found a man on top of Carlin, her head bleeding from hitting the corner of the nightstand. When he saw me, "Who the hell are you?" I grabbed the fire extinguisher behind the door and hit the man, ready to take Carlin to the hospital. Kenneth and Magdalene rushed over, but my family showed no concern for Carlin, and they focused on questioning the man I had just attacked. How are you? Are you okay? Clyde cursed. What the hell does your family want? Give me this girl, and then tell this useless piece of trash where I am. Do they want to die? Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, you never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. Clyde, calm down. I'll go back and teach him a lesson. About my job. What do you think? Clyde's eyes were fiery. You still want to work? Think about how much you owe me. Cheryl also tried to reason Clyde. For Auntie's sake, please help Magdalene. We brought you the girl you wanted. Today's incident was our fault, and we're sorry. I was tired of their nonsense and picked up Carlin. Carlin, how are you? Carl, I can't go on. I wanted to take Carlin to the hospital, but Cheryl blocked me. You hit someone and want to wet. Hurry up and apologize to Clyde. Do you want to ruin your sister and his family? This was the first time I called Cheryl by her name. Cheryl, get out of my way. If you keep talking, I'll kill you. Kenneth pulled Cheryl aside. Enough. Stop talking and save the girl. I took Carlin to the hospital alone. The doctor's words nearly took half my life. She has brain damage and is now a fool. The chances of her recovering to normal are very low. I settled Carlin into the hospital room and stayed by her side. Kenneth came up behind me. Call. Dad wants to talk to you. In doing this for you and your sister. After she graduates from college, she wants to work at Buckeye Company, and they'll take advantage of her. I don't want your sister to suffer, which is why I thought of this plan. After what happened to Carlin, if she doesn't stay with you, no one will want her. If you come back and talk nonsense, I'll kill you. Cheryl persisted. Carl, don't talk to me like that. I married into your family. I have put in effort. The doctor said Carlin is now a fool. You won't be happy with her, so it's better to break up. I can find you a woman even better than Carlin. Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he said, you never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. I turned and slapped Cheryl, making her lip bleed. Dad, if you don't leave, He'll make sure you die here. Magdalene rushed in, grabbing my sleeve. Bro, what are you doing? Mom is just trying to help you. Bleh. Carlin is now a fool. Do you want to support this burden in the future? Get out of here too. Just my anger peaked. If I didn't have to take care of Carlin, I swore I would have killed Cheryl and that Buckeye guy. We spent 6 months in the hospital, and Clyde never came to cause trouble. Seeing Carlin still smiling at me made me determined. After being discharged, I first went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate and took Carlin everywhere, looking for ways to help her recover. Every day, I hoped that I would wake up to find Carlin's intelligence back to normal. The only thing that brought me joy was how Carlin acted like a child. In a luxury car, Dinah was driving while Carlin and I played in the back. Carlin was always mischievous, teasing me and giggling. To make her laugh, I pretended to be stern, and she immediately apologized. Okay, little Jian, don't be angry. I'm just playing with you. Dinah then said at an inappropriate moment, Carl, I know you hate me, but my divorce from your dad was easy. Cheryl intervened in our family. I had no choice but to leave. All these years, I haven't remarried and started my own company just to bring you closer so we could enjoy our later years together. I sighed. Once Carlin is better, they'll follow your arrangements and treat you well. The car fell silent. Even Carlin didn't dare to be playful. The luxury car stopped in front of a small Taoist temple, and a very thin old Taoist priest came out to greet us. After explaining our situation, the old priest examined Carlin for a while and said, This girl has lost her soul. She's missing one soul and 2 spirits from the 3 souls and 7 spirit. To help her wake up, we just need to find her soul back. Over the years, I had taken Carlin to many places, consulting both traditional and Western medicine, and I wasn't going to give up on any opportunity. Then please help us call her soul back, I urged. The old priest shot me a disapproving look. Do you think calling a soul back is that easy? This girl has hatred in her heart. The lost souls are attached to 3 enemies of hers. As long as those enemies are alive, the lost souls won't want to return. If we forcefully call the soul back, even if it comes back, there will be serious side effects. Before I could respond, Dinah asked the old priest, Dawith, you have any solutions? The safest way is to wait. The souls attached to her enemies will gradually drain their fortune and lifespan. Once the enemies die, the souls will naturally return. But I can't say how long that will take. As for a faster method, I frowned and immediately said, Pay him. Dawith, help us think of a solution. For Carlin, I would give up anyone or anything, including the fact that Dinah had abandoned me before. Dinah was taken aback by my word. Slightly confused. Kearney, what did you just call me? Hurry and pay. I want to know what the Taoist method is. I want Carlin to recover as soon as possible. I can't wait another day. Hearing that title again excited Dinah, and she handed a stack of money to the old priest. The old priest revealed his plan. If you help this girl eliminate her enemy and provide me with their birth dates, I can find a way to take them out. Then, using the ashes of the enemies as a medicinal guide, we can lead the lost souls back to their rightful place. This method won't harm her body and will be the fastest. The only issue is, who are the enemies this girl has identified? And you only get one chance. You can't make a mistake. I furrowed my brow, pondering who Carlin's 3 enemies were. Cheryl was one, Clyde and Ithurwa was the last. Kenneth or Magdalene? I wouldn't hesitate to eliminate Cheryl and Clyde. But Kenneth is my dad and Magdalene is my sister. Even if they were wrong, I was hesitant to act against them. Moreover, I wasn't sure who Carlin considered her enemies. If I chose wrong, Carlin might never recover. As we left the temple, Dinah followed behind me. I don't think that old priest is a good person. Should we find someone else? No need. I think he's quite good. On the way back, Dinah booked us a hotel, but I refused and returned to our rental apartment. Unsure of who Carlin's 3 enemies truly were, I decided to leave it to fate. I took a piece of paper, tore it in half, and wrote Kenneth and Magdal's names on each half, then crumpled them into balls, thinking to myself, give me a way out. And whoever I draw will be the correct answer. I randomly picked one and opened it. The name on it was Kenneth. I felt a bit relieved. After all, Magdalene was still young. Although Cheryl had framed Carlin for Magdal's sake, I hoped she was reluctant, and Carlin couldn't possibly hold a grudge against Magdalene. That night, I couldn't sleep, thinking about how to obtain the birth dates and times of the three of them. I already knew Kenneth. And for Cheryl, I only knew the date but not the exact time. Finding that out shouldn't be too difficult. The hardest part was getting Clyde's. Since he was family, it wouldn't be easy to find out his birth date and time. Before I knew it, dawn broke, and my phone rang. It was Magdalene calling. Bro, you need to come back and see. Mom is really not well. She wants to apologize to you. And today is her birthday. I'm begging you, just come back and see her. Suddenly, a thought struck me. Ask her what time Mom was born. After a while, Magdalene said, she was born at 8 a.m. Will the shop? Are you coming back? Okay, Magdalene. Don't worry. I'm coming back right away. After hanging up, I tried to control my excitement and took out a strawman and a stack of yellow paper from my bag. Those were given to me by the old priest when I left the temple, and he specifically instructed me once you have the birth dates and times of your enemies, write them down quickly. Following the old priest's instructions, I wrote down Kenneth and Cheryl's names along with their birth details and affixed them to the straw man. As I was packing up, I might have made some noise, waking Carlin from her sleep. Hubby, what are you? I was still sleeping. Don't sleep anymore. Get up. We're packing to go back to Dad and Mom's house. Carlin was especially happy. So you've forgiven them? Yeah, I guess I've forgiven them. That's great. You finally forgave Mom and Dad. All these years, Carlin remained so kind. Cheryl had caused her to become a fool. Yet Carlin always encouraged me to let go of my past hatred and forgive Cheryl. Back at our hometown, I called Magdalene. Is Mom still in the hospital? You're back. Mom isn't in the hospital. Just come straight home. I had expected this. Cheryl had pretended to be sick to trick me out of money more than once. But this time, she was about to make her like I'm true. As long as I got Clyde's birth detail, Cheryl was as good as dead. All three of them were home, laughing and talking, seeing me come back. Cheryl greeted me. Carl, the situation at home has become unbearable. We need you to give us your earnings. Otherwise, our family will starve. I glanced at Magdalene, with tears in her eyes. But don't blame me. Mom made me say this. Our company has gone bankrupt, and we really can't get by. The air in the room grew tense, and Carlin, frightened, hid behind me. Kenneth awkwardly added, don't hold it against us. This is the reality at home. You're part of the family, and now that we have a situation, you should help out. I didn't want to argue with two desperate people, so I forced a smile and said, I see. I've been worried for days. All right, after dinner. They didn't expect my agreement to be so swift, which threw them off balance and made them a bit flustered. Seeing Carlin hiding behind me, Cheryl shot me a reproachful look. You still haven't divorced this fool? Do you want her to drag you down for life? Although I didn't want to argue with Cheryl, I wouldn't tolerate her bad habit. I can't just abandon her. My conscience won't allow it. Who made us victims of shamers? My mom taught me that if you make a mistake, you have to take responsibility. Isn't that basic upbringing? Huh? Thought you know that. Cheryl's face darkened. She looked ready to scold me again, but I didn't want to give her the chance. I warn you. Don't ever call Carlin a fool again, or I won't be polite. Magdalene quickly intervened. Bruh, why are you getting upset? Just bring your wife inside. Stop talking out here. As we entered, Kenneth attempted to mediate. As your father, I just ask one thing: can we not bring up the past? Let's focus on living well as a family. For all these years, Kenneth wanted me to let this go, and I had resisted. But now I had no choice. But she can't look down on Carlin because she doesn't deserve it. Kenneth's expression darkened, and he sent Cheryl to the kitchen to cook. I looked into the kitchen and saw all kinds of food. Kitchen, fit, and me. Was life really that tough? What about Carlin and me, who had often gone hungry for years? That day was Cheryl's birthday, and they encouraged me to drink. I said, forget it. Since the last incident, I haven't touched alcohol. It's better to keep a clear mind to avoid being schemed against. Kenneth and Cheryl's faces turned increasingly grim. That night, Carlin and I stayed at home, and I thought about how to get Clyde's name and birth details. After waking up, I took Carlin out for a walk. A familiar figure approached. It was Mr. Ch, who had watched me grow up, along with his son. After years, Chance looked much older and was not as healthy as before. His son Channing was pushing Mr. Chance in a wheelchair, and they both looked happy to see me. Carl, in so long since we've seen each other. Let me have a look at you. Mr. Chance. After some casual chatting, Chance suddenly frowned and said, Carl, I need to tell you something. Your dad should be careful of Cheryl. She has drained your family's finances, and Magdalene not even your dad's child. What? I was skeptical. While I hated Cheryl, I cowed and believed my father would let her betray him. But Miss Chance had watched me grow up. He had no reason to lie. Channing tried to interrupt, but Miss Chance was insistent. Shut up. I can't just stand by while your Uncle Reading is being schemed against. Chance continued. Before Cheryl met your dad, she was the mistress of someone named Buckeye, and even got beaten up by the man's wife. Many people know about that. When Cheryl met your dad, I advised him to stay with your mom, but he didn't listen and divorced her. Even after marrying your dad, Cheryl still had ties with someone named Ventura, and I've seen her going to hotels with Buckeye. My expression turned icy. The man Cheryl was involved with his son is called Clyde. Exactly. But I can't confirm if it's true Buckeye's wife can't have children. So how did they end up with a son? I suspect Cheryl might have had a hand in it. It explained why Cheryl had sent Carlin to Clyde after getting her drunk. It seemed Madeline must already know the truth. Otherwise, with her character, she wouldn't have used another woman's body to please Clyde unless they were biological siblings, trying to avoid moral complications. After hearing this, I comforted Mr. Chance. Thank you for keeping our family in your thoughts. I know his birthday, but I can find out the exact time. Why do you ask? I smiled slightly and decided to be honest with Mr. It's nothing specific. I just want to know. Can you help me? That night, Chance got me Clyde's birth details and told me that Clyde's real name was Dylan. Finally, I felt a sense of relief. Everything was set for the reckoning. Once I'd taken care of everything, I didn't say a word to anyone. I just took Carlin and left that house, leaving not a penny for Cheryl and the others. Back at the temple, I knelt before the old priest and said, Master, I've brought the birth details of those 3 people. Please, help my wife. That night, the old priest conducted a ritual. My phone buzzed incessantly. Brother, where have you been? Mom and Dad had emergency. Why aren't you back yet? I've already left. Magdalene, are you addicted to lying? How many times have you tricked me already? And you still want to try that on me? Magdalene was in tears. This true. I'm not lying. The doctor said they're in critical condition. Please come back quickly. On the line, I heard Kenneth's voice. Where have you gone? Your mom really might not make it. You need to come home and see us. I know you're angry at your mom, but it's been so many years. Can't you let it go? I replied. Dad, didn't you say before that I'm the construction bank and Magdalene is the China Merchants Bank? Are you planning to rely on her for retirement? Why do you keep calling me when you're sick? You didn't say anything more. I've heard the boy who cried wolf story too many times. Then I is this time. I won't fall for it. Take care of yourself. I hung up and blocked Magdal's number. Kenneth called again, but I hung up and blocked him too. When Cheryl called, I didn't hesitate to do the same. When a strange number called, I hung up and blocked that too. I had completely severed ties with my family, hoping that Carlin would get better soon. Another call came in. I was about to hang up when I realized it was Dinah's number. Ever since that day at the temple, we had exchanged contact information, and she didn't know that I saved her number as Mom. I answered the call. Did you get the contact details for those 3 enemies? The old priest working on it for you? Yeah. How did you know? Dinah took a deep breath and said, why don't you listen? Then naturally took the phone away, smiling as he sighed. You never used to watch these kinds of emotional videos. I didn't know that old priest was a dark practitioner. If I had known, I wouldn't have introduced you to him. There might have been other ways to solve your wife's problem. Why are you in such a rush? I continued to prod. Ma, how did you find out about that? Does Dylan's birth information match any of the three? They're all going crazy. The Buckeye family is my biggest client. You need to make that old priest stop. If his son died. And that would cost me a fortune. I took a deep breath. Ma, this can't be stopped. If you dare to interfere, then I won't recognize you as my mother anymore. Take care of Fulo, you want that little bit of money. Carlin has been sick for so many years. I don't want to wait another day. Do you understand? There was silence on the line for a long time. Just the sound of breathing. Dinah finally said, from now on, I'll support you in whatever you do. I can send it to you right now. Okay, thanks. Ma. That night, the old priest and Carlin all stayed awake. When morning came, Carlin slowly walked over, and I felt a surge of excitement as I cautiously asked her, Carlin, how are you feeling? To my surprise, why are you staring at me with such big eyes? Seeing Carlin's silly behavior drained me of all my strength. After all the effort over the past few days, had I failed again? Or was this old priest just tricking me? You said you would get better, I exclaimed. The old priest wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, there's nothing I can do. Out of the three straw-dolls, you picked one incorrectly. I had chosen one wrong. The correct one was Magdalene. I immediately came up with a new plan. I decided to go home first and check if the three of them were dead. If they were, then as long as I killed Magdalene, Carlin could return to normal. Since I found out that Magdalene wasn't my sister, I considered killing her, but by that time, I had already attached Kenneth's name to the straw doll, and it was too late to change it. After getting some money from Dinah and giving it to the old priest, I took Carlin and left. On the way, I called Dinah and learned that Dylan was already dead. I felt a surge of happiness. I wanted to ask Dinah for a favor. Mom, there's still an heir in the Buckeye family. There's a girl named Doris. The Buckeye family really cares about her. Why? I felt smug and said, tell Doris that she has a sister named Magdalene who wants to claim her inheritance. She should be careful. Okay. I'll let her. You take care too. And if you have any difficulty, just call me. Just as I was about to hang up, Dinah added, son, I'm sorry for everything over the years. You'll make it up to you from now on. Hearing Dinah's choked voice, I reassured her for a bit. When we arrived at the hospital, Kenneth was already dead. The only downside was that Cheryl was still alive, barely breathing. I know you hate me for that thing. Now that I'm like this, you should have let go of your anger. After I'm gone, you and Magdalene should get along well and take care of her. I almost laughed. Cheryl, do you think I'm stupid? Magdalene isn't even part of our family. You want me to protect her because you're afraid that the Buckeye era will come after Magdalene. Someone has already told Doris that she has a sister. Cheryl glared at me. You heartless beast. How can you be so cruel? If I'm a bee, what does that make you? Compared to you, I'm just a small fry. You wouldn't let me finish high school. Took all my money to support your and Magda's extravagance. And even sent my wife to your son. Ruining Carlin for so many years. For the sake of your pride. Even pushed me into divorcing Carlin. I bet my dad doesn't even know she isn't his biological daughter. Cheryl's eyes widened. Her body grew stiff. She died, leaving behind a gaze that seemed unable to close.